Thanks, Kenny. Welcome to White Bear Township's 2016 Special Town Budget Meeting. My name is Bill Short. I'm the Town Clerk Treasurer, and it's my job to call this meeting to order. Before I do, I want to remind you what the purpose of tonight's meeting is. This is a meeting of the people, not of the town board. We have two members of the town board present, Chairman Bob Kermes and Supervisor Steve Ruzick. Supervisor Ed Prudhomme is recovering from knee replacement surgery this morning. I don't think that violates any HIPAA laws, does it? Okay. The purpose of the meeting is, as a town meeting, the residents of White Bear Township have the authority and responsibility to approve a final levy for 2017 taxes, and also the opportunity to comment to the town board on the town's 2017 budget. There's packets by the sign-in sheet. The packet includes tonight's agenda, which is in the brown sheet, the minutes of last year's annual meeting, then the PowerPoint presentation that Tom Kelly, the Town Finance Officer, will be presenting, and the 2017 budget in a summary format. Also present tonight, besides our two town board supervisors, are Tom Kelly, the Finance Officer, who will make the presentation, Dale Reed, our Public Works Director, Tom Redessel, the town's planner, and the rest residents. Tonight's meeting is being cablecast live, and when we get to the point of the presentation, if there are questions, we'd ask you, I'll have a microphone, ask you to speak into the mic, give your name and address, and then that will be telecast to those who are watching us on Channel 16. It'll also be recablecast at other dates. If you would please sign in and grab a copy of the packet, the brown packet, I appreciate it. All right, the next step of the process is to elect a moderator. The budget meeting, because it's a meeting of the people and not a meeting of the board, is run by you. And one of the steps in the process is to select a resident to serve as your moderator. We have a volunteer to serve in that capacity tonight, Tom Horak. He's served as moderator for these meetings several prior years, at least 5. And Tom has volunteered to serve in that capacity again tonight. Once elected, then, the moderator then opens the meeting. I would like to note that the minutes of tonight's meeting have been on the town website for about 10 days. All right, with that, Tom has entered his name as to volunteer in that capacity. Is there anybody else that would like to serve as moderator? If not, is there a motion to elect Tom Horak to serve as your moderator tonight? Okay, moved. Second? Okay, moved in second. Any discussion? If not, those in favor of electing Tom to serve in that capacity, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's it. There he is. Come on up, Tom. Thank you. Oh, incidentally, I didn't introduce the town attorney. He's also present tonight and served as Arnold's here.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's my pleasure then to officially call this meeting to order. And as is customary, we will be following Robert's Rules of Order as far as the process for the meeting transpires. And Bill, as is also customary, will be taking the minutes of our meeting. So our first item of business is to approve the agenda. I think all of you have copies of the agenda before you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second, okay. Any discussion on that? Anybody want to add anything? If not, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Okay, the agenda is approved. And then we need to look at the minutes, which are in your packet of December 8th, 2015. and we need to approve those minutes. So if I could hear a motion to approve? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Well, with that, then we move right into the presentation, which will be given to us by Tom Kelly, and I'll turn this over to him.
Well, I was told I had to start with a joke, and I couldn't think of any, but you know, a number of years ago I used this one, and I think it's been long enough that I could bring it back, so I'll try this one. A while back, Bob Kermes, Steve Ruzick, and myself were asked to travel abroad to teach and present how government works in the United States. And on our flight over, unfortunately over a remote junglist area, the plane went down, and we were lucky enough to survive the crash, but we were captured by some cannibals. And they took us to their chief, and the chief said, well, the bad news is we are going to kill you. The good news is it's our tradition to grant each victim one wish. So he asked Bob Kermes what his wish was, and Bob said, well, I served in the military, I've served in government, I'm very patriotic. If I could hear the Star-Spangled Banner one more time, I could die happy. And the chief said, okay, we will grant that wish. And then he asked me, he said, what is your wish? And I said, well, I've always worked in government. I love giving talks on governmental budgeting. If I could give one more speech on governmental budgeting, I could die happy. He says, all right, we will play the Star-Spangled Banner. You can give your speech on governmental budgeting. And then he asked Steve Ruzick what his wish was, and Steve says, I want to be killed after the Star-Spangled Banner. That's the only joke I got. Sorry. All right, my clicker now isn't working. So we'll go the old-fashioned way. All right. All right, come on. All right, why isn't this working? All right, here we go. All right, reason for tonight's meeting, as Bill said, is we're hopefully going to talk about Township's budget and the property tax, and hopefully you'll leave here with a better understanding of it. And then as residents of the township, you will get to vote on the property tax levy and then recommend to the town board the general fund budget for 2017. Recapping the current year, we had a property tax levy of $2,933,926, which was just over a 2.5% increase from the 2015 levy. And the tax levy for 16 had increased just over 1% since 2012. 2016 was the first year that I can recall since about 1991 that we didn't have a debt levy for the township where we were levying taxes to pay off some bonds. So we ended up with an operating levy of $2,688,398, and the difference between the top line there and the bottom is the fiscal disparities, which for 2016 we did see a decrease. With that property tax, property in the township would have seen about $8 to about an $18 increase in their property taxes just for the township with that increase. The 2016 general fund budget is $3,724,485. It is a balanced budget, meaning we're not using any reserves to pay off the budget. Again, it was just under a 5% increase, and public safety, as normal, continues to be our largest expenditure area in the general fund. And then, of course, our biggest revenue source is our property tax, which accounts for almost 79% of our revenues in the general fund. Another highlight in 2016, the township did apply and get a water efficiency rebate grant from the Met Council. We did totally use up those funds that were available to us at the time. So we had 143 WaterSense toilets that were rebated, 26 clothes washers, and then 6 irrigation controllers. And the whole purpose of the grant is to save water. We estimate that the water saved through this, through those purchases, will save almost 3 million gallons. And then based on the actual rebates, there'd be a total savings to residents of almost $3.5 million. Of those funds, we received the grant of $24,000, and then the township actually had a portion that it had to pay, and so the township's portion was $8,226, and that came out of our water fund. Other highlights in 2016, the township's annual financial report, the CAFR, did receive Government Finance Officer's Certificate of Achievement. It was the 20th straight year that we have received that award, and we are one of 139 governments in Minnesota to receive that award. Our 2015 budget, or 16 budget, did receive the Budget Award. It's the 15th time that we've received the Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, and the township is one of 29 governments in Minnesota to receive that award. Finally, the what is called the popular report that you would have just received, not this last quarter, but the previous quarter in your utility bill, the little summary of our finances, did receive Government Finance Officers Award for that. It's the second time that we received that award, and we're only one of 9 government entities to receive all 3 of the awards from GFOA in Minnesota. So we're in select company on that. With that, moving into our 2017 budget, our budget calendar, we actually started with our budget at the annual meeting on March 8th when the residents approved the preliminary levy at that meeting. We then started working with the various departments in the township in May to come up with a preliminary budget and worked that down to come up with the preliminary levy that we certified to Ramsey County on September 15th. And that was the levy that was used in the notices that you would have received in mid-November, towards the end of November, from the county. We are working on our 5-year capital improvement plan. Again, we'll have that approved by the town board at the same time they approve our budget at the next town board meeting. And the first year of that 5-year capital improvement plan will actually be is actually being incorporated into our 2017 budget. Again, we've been holding budget workshops in August and November with the town board and department heads. The budget and tax levy is then being presented to you, the residents, tonight. And again, the residents do have to approve the property tax levy. And then, by law, we do have to certify the final levy to the county by December 29th. and then our fiscal year begins January 1st. So, the total budget for the town for all funds is just over $14 million. The largest portion of that is our enterprise funds, which is our water, our sewer, stormwater. And the reason that is the largest is because of the capital improvements that are proposed in those funds. Normally you'll see capital improvement funds being larger, but we just have more projects proposed here in the enterprise funds. The general fund makes up about 27% of our budget, and then we've got a few other debt service and internal service funds. And we'll go into those more in depth here shortly. If you go by function, our largest area is other services and charges. And the reason for that is the township actually contracts a lot of our services where a lot of the cities do them in-house. And so for a lot of cities, you'll see personnel services being the largest chunk of their budget, or the capital outlay being the largest chunk of their budget. But for the township, because of those contracts, we actually have other service charges as our largest part. It makes up about 40% of our total budget. Capital outlay, again, because of all those projects, make up about 32% of our budget. And then the next largest piece of the pie is our personnel services, which is at 13%. Some of those contracts, as I said, it includes our police service, our fire service, street sweeping, IT, and then there's a few other miscellaneous items. Personnel services, the total budget for our personnel services is $1,776,674. Again, this is in all funds. It's about a 19.13% increase from 2016. 9.13% from 16. It includes 18 full-time employees, which is the same as we had in 2016. But we added an employee in 16 that was there for only part of the year, which accounts for some of the reason why we have a 9% increase in this area, is because in 2017 we've got that individual for the full year instead of part of the year. It also includes our summer seasonal positions in Public Works, and then our PERA, our FICA, and our health insurances, and our workers' comp is also included in that. The good news is our health insurance is decreasing 9.62%. Part of this is due to the union employees changing health care providers, and then the township's non-union employees, their health insurance is only going up 3% for 2017. Wages are based on our union contract, which runs through 2017. The contract actually expires on December 31st, 2017. And that contract calls for a cost of living increase of 2% on January 1st and a 1% cost of living on July 1st. Our supplies budget amounts to $455,595. That's a 7% increase from 16, and it includes our salt, our sand, our chemicals, and our street maintenance materials. The chemical budget has been increased for road treatments, and then in the water fund we have some chemicals that we're treating the water with to improve the water quality. And so those are the biggest increases in our supply budget for 17. Our biggest area is our other services and charges. Again, the budget for 17 is right now at $5,733,773. It's a 5.6% increase from 2016. And this includes all of our professional fees. Again, as I said, we contract for a lot of these things, so we contract for elections, audit, engineering, legal, police, fire. Our police and fire budgets are being increased 4.33% and 3.99% respectively. And they actually make up about 8.6% of our total budget is the police and the fires. Also in this area, we have our beach operations, our portable toilets, our water main repairs, and then we have $83,300 to replace and maintain some park assets, which is about a 3.5% increase from 2016. And then finally, it also includes our utilities, our electric, our gas, our water, and our sewer. Our debt service is $795,009. This is a 71% increase from previous years, and it includes all the principal and interest on our bonds. In 2017, the reason for the 71% increase is we're going to pay off the 2005B taxable tax increment bond. So that increases our debt principal considerably for 2015. As you can see, it increases it by about $335,000. And the reason we're paying that off is that the remaining interest for the next 4 years is at 5.25% interest. So we're not earning that on our investments, and so it just makes more sense to pay it off. Our capital outlay is at $4,510,928 for all of our funds. This is actually a decrease from 2016 of just over 3.25%. For 2017, it does include replacing some curbs, our annual seal coating project. We're going to do a sewer lining project in the south east side of the township, and then we're proposing to start repainting the water towers again. It also includes $317,200 in park improvements and building improvements for 2017, and that's an increase of about 1.17%. Finally, we have $875,922 budgeted for transfers. These are funds we transfer from one fund to another fund for various reasons. This is a large decrease from 2015. It's about 274% of a decrease. And a big reason for those decreases are lower debt payments, because of paying off some debt previously, and so for that reason, and then we've got smaller capital projects that are going to require less in transfers for future projects. So we've actually decreased that for 2017. A lot of the transfers will be from a fund where we've collected money to pay off the debt, and we've got to just move it from that fund over to the debt fund to pay off that debt. Going into the 2017 budget by fund type, our debt service funds, we've got revenues of just over $791,000, and as I said, our debt expenditures are $935,897. The township still maintains a AA 2 rating by Moody's Investors. We've had that rating for quite a while. We again have no debt levy in 2017, and as far as I could tell, the town had a debt levy from 1991 through 2015. My financial records on the computer don't go back any further than 1991, so I didn't go back and research it, but that does save the town's residents some money. If you calculate out the outstanding debt that we have by our population, As of January 1st of 17, we'll have a debt per capita of $325. If you compare that to 2011, our debt per capita was $874,000. So we've brought down our debt considerably. In 2017, as of January 1st, we'll have just over $3,375,000 in outstanding debt. And because of paying off that 2005 bond and then paying the other principal on the few other debt issues we have, by the end of the year, that'll be down to $2,290,000, and that'll bring our debt per capita down to about $207. And I should say the revenues there are mainly from either operating transfers from other funds or special assessments, so to affected property owners of previous projects. Our capital improvement funds, we've got revenues of $976,820 with expenditures of $1,428,728. Again, the revenues there are tax increment money that we collect from our various tax increment districts, our special assessments, and then some transfers. The expenditures include the curb replacement, our seal coat project, some improvements to the Polar Lake parks, and then some tax increment payments that we owe on our pay-as-you-go notes that we have with the various districts. The township does operate 3 internal service funds. An internal service fund is basically where we charge ourselves for services or items that we can then use the money to pay for those services. For example, we have a capital equipment fund, we have a capital building improvement fund, and then our insurance fund. We basically charge the departments for the depreciation of the equipment that they use, put that money into an internal service fund so that when that equipment needs to be replaced, we've got the money available to us to replace it, and we don't need to go out and borrow the money and then increase your tax levy for it. It also smooths out that tax levy because if we need to buy a big expensive piece of equipment that's going to cost $200 and some thousand, we've collected that money over time as opposed to having to collect it in 1 year and increase the levy by a large amount that 1 year and then the next year have it go back down. So an internal service fund just kind of levels those things off. Again, we also charge our departments for the township's liability insurance, the workers' comp insurance, and so forth. And we put it into our risk management fund. We then use that fund to pay our insurance premiums, and as that fund builds up a balance, we either increase our deductibles or we self-insure some of our assets. So it lowers, over time, it lowers the insurance premiums on those items. So for 2017, again, the revenues are $574,765, and with the equipment and the improvements we've got planned and the insurance payments, it just amounts to $496,575. Our enterprise funds. This does consist, excuse me, of our stormwater fund, our sanitary sewer fund, and our water utility fund. Right now, we've got just over $3,500,000 in possible infrastructure improvements. That includes the water tower painting, some well and pump house improvements. We're switching out our devices on our water meters so that a radio signal will pick up those readings as opposed to having an individual walk up to each individual one. So that's part of those infrastructure improvements. As I mentioned before, we're doing a sewer lining project on the southeast side of the township, and then we're rehabbing a lift station, and then we've got some stormwater improvements that are severely overdue that we've got budgeted. The water, the utility rates are designed to pay for 100% of the operating expenses, and they should do that. However, these funds do have depreciation expense of $770,000 that is not paid completely with our utility rates at this time. Again, our rates are intended to cover 100% of the operations, and our goal is to have it pay for 75% of the depreciation. And again, our utility commission and the town board, we are reviewing these rates every year now and trying to adjust them accordingly. And again, with the rates that we just increased, and you got notice in your utility bills that it'll take effect the next quarter, we should be able to cover our operating costs and get close to that 75% of the depreciation. And again, the water and sewer funds include $1,505,000 and $1,787,000 of improvements respectively. The rates do cover those through the depreciation, so we don't have to necessarily increase the rates a large amount for those improvements as we've been collecting the money over time. Now the stormwater fund does have $270,000 of improvements budgeted, and unfortunately, because the stormwater fund does not have a large cash balance, with the improvements we've got planned over the next few years, without some large rate increases there, that fund will go into the negative for a little bit, but then will bounce back up. So that brings us to our general fund, which is the main reason you're here tonight. Our general fund does account for the day-to-day operations of the township. Our budget is proposed right now at a 3.39% increase. As I stated earlier, our main revenue source here is property taxes. And again, it is a balanced budget. We are not using reserves to balance and pay for expenditures in 2017. The breakdown by department, you can see our budget is $3,878,932. The largest part of our budget is our public safety, which makes up 36% of our budget. Our public works department, which is our snow plowing, our road maintenance, that makes up 25% of our budget. Our general government, which is the elections, the licensing, all that sort of things, is 23%. And then our park maintenance budget and our township day activities makes up 16% of our budget. And this is normal for most governments. Usually public safety is the largest part of their general fund budget, followed by public works. Sometimes we get into a situation where our general government gets larger than our public works because of some of those contract services that we have, where they're tracked in general government, where other cities have employees doing that. If you go by function, again, charges for services, those contracts make up 58% of our general fund budget, followed by personnel services, which makes up 32% of the budget, and then supplies at 6%, and then capital outlay and our operating transfer make up 2%. Our personnel services in the general fund is just over $1,265,000. It's a 3.09% increase from 2016. It does maintain the 18 full-time employees, but as I said, one of those 18 was hired partway through 2016, and so we've now got that employee where we have to fund him for the full 12 months of the year. It does include our seasonal summer help, which we use for street patching and mowing parks and so forth. And then it also includes our PERA, which is our retirement benefits, the FICA Medicare tax, health insurance, and then workers' compensation insurance. And again, our health insurance, because of some changes that the union made to their coverage, we will actually see a 9.62% decrease in our health insurance for 2017. Supplies in the general fund are just over $229,000. That is a 5.91% increase from the 2017, or it makes up 5.91% of our total general fund budget, and it's actually a decrease of about $7,000 from 2016. And that does include our office supplies, salt and sand, chemicals, and street maintenance material, which are probably our largest supplies. Our other services and charges are just over $2,237,000 in the general fund, and again, that makes up almost 57.5% of our total general fund budget. For 2017, it's a 5.88% increase from the 2016. And as I said, it includes our professional fees, our audit, our engineering, our legal, our contracted services for the sheriff department, which increased 4.33%, and our fire contract, which increased just under 4%. And again, the public safety department does make up just over 36% of our total general fund budget. Finally, our capital outlay is proposed at 1.96% of the general fund budget. It's based on our 5-year CIP. It includes some improvements to Bel Air Beach, some playground equipment replacement at Apple Tree Park, and some trail development. Finally, we have a $71,000 transfer. The transfer is from our road and bridge department into our capital improvement fund to help fund the annual seal coating project. For 2017, we have that proposed at $71,000. The project itself is about $135,000, so we're not fully funding that. We're using reserves to fund the difference between the 135 and the 71. And again, it represents a transfer between funds. So if you break it down by department, as I said, our public safety is the largest area at 36, public works at 25, and then general government at 23, followed by recreation at 16%. And again, it's about a $127,000 increase from our 2016 budget. Again, if you go by the different departments, our public safety budget is at $1,396,778. It's an increase of about 4.27%. Our public works department actually increased 7.21% to $975,083. A large part of that is that increase in our operating transfer. Our general government increased $27,271 to $900,400, and then our park and recreation department actually decreased 3.65% to $606,670, and a big portion of that decrease is due to the improvements that are planned for the parks. That decreased that budget by $41,000. We've just got fewer projects that are proposed in 2017 in the parks. This chart I like to call my Pac-Man chart. It kind of looks like a Pac-Man eating the rest of them. It's our property taxes. You can see make up 77% of our revenues. and then the remaining 23% are made up of operating transfers, some miscellaneous interest earnings, fines, charges for services, intergovernmental, and then licenses and permits. But by far, our property taxes are our largest source. Property taxes are our largest source. They are proposed to increase 2.25%. Our fiscal disparities revenue, which is a revenue sharing device in the metro area for commercial development, will actually be $276,309, which is a 12.54% increase from 2016. And so that leaves us with a general fund tax levy proposed at $2,723,691, which is actually a 1.31% increase. But the two of those items, the property tax levy and the fiscal disparities, gets us our total levy, which is the $3 million that you're going to be asked to approve tonight. Factors that go into our property tax system: the Ramsey County assessor determines your market value. You get those notices sometime around end of March, beginning of April, telling you the appeal process and so forth on those. But based on those market values, that is what they base or apply our tax rate against those market values for the following year. The property class rates are established by the state of Minnesota. The class rates are then applied to your market value to get to your tax capacity. The township then levies a property tax, and it's that tax that is divided by the town's total tax capacity generated by all properties to determine the tax rate. And then that tax rate is multiplied by your individual tax capacity to determine the taxes you will pay on your property to the township. For 2017, the county estimates that our tax capacity will be in total at $14,208,288. However, from that, you do have to subtract some tax increment tax capacity, and then the portion of the township's tax capacity that we contribute to the fiscal disparities pool, which brings us down to a taxable tax capacity of $12,403,846, and that represents an increase of $651,287, or 5.5% from our tax capacity in 2016. This chart shows you how our tax capacity has changed over the years since 2000. And you can see some of these years there were changes in the legislative law on how taxes and tax capacity were calculated. And you can see we had increased quite a bit up to just over 14 million. In 2008 was our peak, where we had a tax capacity of 14,477,433. Then the housing crisis hit, and our tax capacity has been dropping until about 2014, when residential values started coming back up. And the good news is, in 2017, not only does the county estimate that our residential values have come back, but for the first time since about 2011, commercial values are starting to come up. Again, if you take our property tax of $2,723,691, add in the fiscal disparities of $276,309, it gets us an operating levy of $3 million. That is a 2.25% from the 2016 levy. But if you go back all the way to 2012, our levy since 2012 has only increased 3.3%. Which is what is being shown in this chart. And you can see in 2012 was kind of our high point, and then again the housing crisis hit and we dropped down a little bit, and then the last few years it's been coming back up. To show you those numbers in table form, which may be a little bit hard to read, you can see how our tax capacity since 2012 has changed, what our levy has been since those years, and then when you take this levy and divide it by the tax capacity here, you can see what has happened to our tax rate. And you can see it was at its highest here at 25.246% in 2013. And now with what we're proposing tonight, it'll actually drop to 21.958. Also, for a while, with the bonds that we had issued, we did have a market value levy, and that went away a couple of years ago. And so you can also see how the market value in the township has changed, what that levy was, and then what the market value rate was. So again, showing just the township tax rates in graph form. The high was 2013 at 25.246. With this levy, we're at 21.958, which just by coincidence just happens to be the same rate we had in 2015. And it is lower than the rates we've had since 2011. So, or it's more comparable to the rate we had in 2011 than previously. If you take the rates proposed by all the different cities in Ramsey County, the township remains the third lowest at the 21.98. The city of White Bear Lake and the city of North Oaks continue to be lower than the township. The city of North Oaks does pay for a lot of their services through an association fee, and so that's why their tax rate is so much lower. And then White Bear Lake, because of their state aids and so forth, they get quite a bit more, and so they are actually lower than us, and then all the other communities. St. Anthony is the highest, but they've just got a small portion that's into Ramsey County, so it really doesn't matter. The county assessor, from the information he gave me, basically he's telling me about 50% of the properties in residential properties in the township had either a decrease or no change in their market value between 2016 and 17. They're estimating that 46% had an increase of 0% to 10% in their market value, and then 2.32% had a 10% to 20% increase, and that amounts to about 105 parcels. And then finally, 1.9% had an increase in their market value of greater than 20%, and that was 86% of the parcels. So hopefully you're in that top line and not the bottom line. Based on this, the median value home in the township increased 2.8% from 16 to 17. For 17, it is estimated that the median value home in the township is $235,050. And you can see how it was at 212 before the housing crisis hit, and then it kind of dropped, and it's been coming back up slowly ever since. So what does that mean? Well, if your property did not have a market value increase, and this chart goes back to 2011, you could see how your property taxes, and this is just the township portion of the property taxes changed on each of these different valued homes. So if you look at the low end at 135,000, if you didn't have a change in 2016, you would have paid about $308 in township taxes. For 17, you'd pay $296. So you'd have a decrease of about $12. Going up to the top end of the spectrum that I did at 300,000, in 2016 you would have paid $686 in township property taxes. That'll go down to $659, which is a decrease of about $27. And if you go since 2013, which is this red line, which is our highest, those same properties would have seen anywhere from a decrease in their taxes from 13 to 17, $52 to $114 based on the value. But we know that market values do change, and so if we go through and adjust those based on the increase that the median value home changed, in this case for 17, if we estimate that it changed or increased 2.8%, this is actually what you would have seen in that same time frame. Again, 2013 would have been the high peak, but between 2016 and 2017, on the low end, with the market value increasing, you would still see about a $1.36 decrease in the township property taxes. Again, that $300,000 home would increase to about $331,000. You would see a decrease from $719 to $712. So you're going to see about a $7 decrease in your township property taxes. And if you do it comparing it to 2013, that high end, again, you would see between a $55 and a $20 decrease in your township share of your property taxes. Applying that to the median valued home, you can see what the home value, what the median value home value was down here at the bottom. I'm sure this is kind of hard to read. And then what the property taxes were on those values. You can see the high end, again, 2011, they would have paid about $483 in township taxes compared to $462 now. In 2016, they would have paid $480 versus $462. So again, the township share is going down, even though our tax levy is going up. Tonight we're talking about the township share of the property taxes, but you pay other taxing jurisdictions. And from this chart you can see Ramsey County makes up about 50% of your property tax bill. The school district about 21%. The township is about 20%. And then there's some miscellaneous districts that the state has or the regional governments have, watersheds and so forth, that make up about 7.8%. If you take the township's different departments, the public safety, public works, general government, park and recreation, and break it down into a monthly bill, you can see what the monthly rate was, and that would total up to about $40, and that's based on that median valued home. So it may vary based on your market value, but just in a comparison for a median value home, the township's property taxes, they would pay about $40 a month. And so when you compare that to, say, cable TV, I went online today and I found where you could get a cable TV package for about $80 a month. I'm not sure how many stations you get for that, but $80 for cable versus $40 for all these government services. I found a cell phone with unlimited data for about $60 a month. Again, comparing that to the township. And then, of course, your electric, your gas bill is probably higher than the $40 a month that you're paying in township property taxes. Our budgets, our financial reports, this presentation, other information is available on the township's website or on our Facebook page. If you want more on the property tax system, a good resource, and I did put out a handout over there, is the League of Minnesota Cities. Their website is www.lmc.org, and if you do the /property-tax, they'll bring up, they've got videos on property tax systems and articles and so forth, and so you can learn whatever you want to learn about the state's property tax system at the League's website. And I did print out one of those things as kind of a Q&A on why your property tax changes, and it does give you that website on there if you're interested in that. See, and I brought up the town's website. We did a year ago change our website. We've added a few different things to the website since then, and I want to highlight some of that items that may be a good thing for you. There's a section on there called Notify Me, and what Notify Me does, it's like a subscriber system where you can be emailed or text, depending on what you want, either different alerts that the city or the township puts out, calendar of events that the township has, township news, town agendas, minutes. So whenever we go into our website and update those things, it would actually send you notification that there's an alert out there. For example, a week ago we had to shut off water in a neighborhood because of a broken valve. If you had been subscribing to the alerts, you would have received an alert that your neighborhood was going to be shut off for water for a period of time during that day. Or if for whatever reason you want to get notified of town board agendas, whenever we update a town board agenda, you would get an email or a text message saying that there's a new town board agenda out on the website. Report a concern, we do have part of this up and running, but it basically allows you to report a concern such as a pothole, a code violation, some other issue that you may have, barking dog, whatever your concern is, it will send the department that is in charge of that area. So like if you report a pothole, our Public Works Department will get an email that states where that pothole is, and then once they correct the pothole or fix the pothole, it can send you again an email back saying that they've taken care of that issue. The last thing we just did, we do now have online utility billing. You can sign up to either pay your bill online, or if you just want to look at your account history to see if you've made a payment, what your water consumption history has been, and so forth. All that is available now online. Also, the new website does allow us to video stream the town board meetings. However, because of the cable company's software, that is not available until at least the next day. We can't do it live, unfortunately, at this time. So again, it's one of those new features that the cable company hasn't completely stayed up to date on. But if you missed a town board meeting and you wanted to watch it the next day, you can do that via our website. So in summary, in total, expenditures for all of our funds is at $14,147,874. It's an increase of about 7.5%. Our total general fund budget is $3,878,932. That is a 3.42% increase. We are proposing a property tax levy of $3 million, and that is a 2.25% increase. And then our tax capacity of the township did increase to 12,403,846, which is a 5.5% increase. Our tax rate of 21.958 is actually a 4% decrease from 2016. And with that, we open it up to you to ask your questions or make your comments. And again, we're cable casting this, and my mic runner is gone. There he is.
Yes.
Questions?
Just make sure it was live.
Thank you. Scott McCune, 5250 Anderley Lane. You had mentioned a couple times that the debt levy is now zero. I see we still have debt, so I was wondering if you could explain to me how a debt levy works if we have a zero debt levy but we still have debt. And then you'd mentioned about a market value levy, which is now zero but had been in there in the past. How do those factor into the whole equation if it's not too complicated?
I'll give you the simple answer.
Thank you.
Or at least I'll try to give you the simple answer. When we issue debt in the township, and cities do this too, the people issuing the debt want to know that they're going to get paid back. And so at the time of issuance, you will list out the sources of revenue that you are going to use to repay that debt. Generally, that will be special assessments collected from those properties affected by the improvements. It may be from utility rates, or it could be from property taxes. And most of the time, we will issue what is called general obligation bonds, which the township basically pledges that if the revenue we pledge against that debt isn't sufficient enough to pay the debt, that the town would be willing to levy property taxes to make up that difference. Because we have collected on special assessments and from other sources, tax increments and so forth, we have the funds available to repay that debt without levying a property tax. So we have the town board pass a resolution reducing that debt from whatever, or that levy from whatever we could levy against that debt to zero. And that's what we're proposing for 2017. Now, there was a change in the legislature a number of years ago that depending on the type of debt you issued, it was either calculated, if you had a debt levy, it would either be calculated on market value or on tax capacity. And we issued debt on our public works building, which was based on market value. That debt has been paid off for the last couple of years, and so we no longer need that levy or have the capability of levying property taxes for that debt since it's been paid off. Does that make sense? Other questions? Whoop.
Oh, there's somebody.
Julie Jarvinen, 4097 Wild Goose Lane. And I just was trying to reconcile. I was unfortunately in the top tier of property valuation increases. And, you know, it went up 11%. My township portion went up 18%. So I'm trying to reconcile that 6 to 7% discrepancy, or, I mean, I see that it's, you know, 5-ish%, but in terms of the actual per household, it seems like it was down on the downward trend. So is there any way of kind of putting all those pieces together?
Yes, I can help you calculate out what your tax would be based on your market value that you received from the county. Now, the notice that you received at that time, as I said, we had to certify a preliminary levy back in September. Since that time, we have reduced that levy down to the 3 million that you saw tonight. So while your notice that you received might say that you've gotten, or your township portion's going up 18%,
Right.
you're still gonna see an increase because of that increased market value, but it won't be as great as 18%, but I'm not gonna promise you it's gonna be under the double digits because of that increase in
Yes.
market value.
I understand that. Okay. And then I just had a couple of specific questions. You mentioned the water meter replacement. It seems like that was something that was done not too long ago for the in-the-house water meter. Is that the same one, or is it the outside?
What the replacement will do is it's a device that actually connects to the outside reading device that's on the side of your house. It'll actually connect to that, and it sends out a low, whatever it's called, low frequency radio signal. And when our Public Works Department or our contract meter reader goes down with the computer in their truck, it'll pick up those radio signals and pick up that reading. And so it eliminates somebody having to walk literally up to your house and putting on a handheld computer device right onto that device on the side of your house, which is very time consuming, and we've had some issues with our meter reading company with getting some of those reads. And by installing these radio reads, we estimate that our Public Works Department or our contractor, once we have 100% of the township with these radio reads, we could probably read the entire township's meters in a day or two.
Okay.
And so it'll save considerable amount of time.
I'd like to add, at the time in 2009 when we started installing our water meters, about a third of the meters in the town actually were radio reads to start with. About 2/3 of our meters are the touch read. It's the touch read that we're converting over time. So the actual meter, the bronze meter with the dial, that's staying the same in everybody's home. It's just the reading device in about 2/3 of our homes that are going to be changed.
Okay.
And that is on the outside, so they don't need to get into your house and you don't need to be there for them to do that. So it shouldn't be an inconvenience to you to do it.
Okay. So long term, there should be a cost savings because of
There should be.
additional. Okay. I was just curious too, coming from a financial background, are there challenges being put out, you know, in this economy? A lot of companies are having to do more with less. I'm just wondering if that challenge has gone out to the various departments to try and do that. Some of them did have decreases, which is great to see. But I was just curious if that's.
We always try to keep everything as tight as possible. We did have a number of decreases in the past few years. A lot of what's driving our increases now, especially in our enterprise funds, are catching up on the capital maintenance of replacing some of the worn out assets and so forth. And so it's really difficult to keep that flat or even at a reasonable adjustment, even if you will. just because of that capital outlay. Within the departments themselves, for the most part, we do keep things pretty flat, and we try to look for cost savings wherever we can.
Frank Londerville at 1294 Otter Ridge Road. Back to a conversation a few minutes ago about the meter reader for the water. Has there been a point in time or any time has the township ever estimated our readings because the reading wasn't taken properly or not on time? And how often does that happen?
The answer to that question is yes. We have had to estimate bills or an individual's bill because we've either gotten a faulty read from the contractor or they haven't been able to read it at all. We get some very interesting comments on the meter reader comments from dog in the yard to can't locate the device. So in those cases, depending on when we get the reading back from our contractor, if it's an estimate for them saying they just couldn't get a reading on it, if we have time before we send out the utility billing, the bill itself, we will send our Public Works Department out to try to get a reading to see if it was the reading company that couldn't get the reading or if there is something wrong with the device itself. And so we will try to get those corrected before we send out the bills. Sometimes we get the readings back and we've only got a day or two to calculate and generate the bills and get them into the mail so that we can meet our deadlines for you guys to get the bills back to us on time. In those instances, we do send out estimated bills based on that, and hopefully then the next time when the readings come in, we'll get a good reading from that one and it'll adjust the account, either give the person a credit if we've overestimated or get them caught up at that point. I won't say it's a perfect system, but hopefully it'll get better with the radio reads once we get all those installed.
So is there a way for a homeowner to verify the reading was correct?
Yeah. If
we
a
feel
homeowner felt that the readings were too high, they could go down, make sure, I guess I would tell them the first thing to do is make sure all the water is turned off in the house. And with nothing running, if that meter is still going, chances are you have a leak somewhere that you either can't hear or you can't see, whether it's a running toilet or something. If it's not running, then you could get like a 5-gallon pail bucket, fill that up and see if your meter generated 5 gallons or exactly what it did generate. And if all else fails, you could call us, and if we think there is possibly a problem, again, we'd send out Public Works to work with that homeowner to identify what the problem is.
Okay. My last question was, there's been a lot of failure in these water valves in the ground in our neighborhood. I think in the last month we've had like 5 water main breaks or valves fail, and we've had to hire City of St. Paul water utilities to come out and repair all those, including the street after they dig it up. Do you have a plan for a long-term plan or a short-term plan to remedy all these older rusting out valves?
I'm going to refer to our Public Works Director on that one.
I'd like to say that there's a plan that will prevent it from happening, but that's not the case. The valves the bolts are corroding away, so it's lifting off the top and it's creating a leak. So our fix is to excavate the valve and then replace the bolts with bolts that won't corrode away. So it's a product issue, and so our easiest way to address it is to do the repair. And unfortunately, you are correct, there are a number of valves in your area, and it's just a timing thing. And hopefully we won't have any more in the near future. So, does that answer your question? We will look, in the long term, if we put in new water mains, we'll be looking at the right material, the better bolts.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Turning it back over to our moderator.
Well, thank you, Tom, for a very clear and very understandable presentation of the budget and the levy information.
And the joke.
Well, the joke, that stands on its own merit, I guess. Okay, now it's up to us to, as a town, to determine whether we will approve the 2017 property tax levy. So if someone would move to approve that, then we can have a discussion or whatever your pleasure. Okay, there's a motion to approve the 2017 property tax levy at $3 million. Is there a second? I'll second. There's a second. Now we're open for discussion. Anyone want to speak against or have any questions? Or if not, I'd call the question. All those in favor of approving this property tax levy, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then our responsibility is to recommend, not approve, but to recommend the 2017 general fund budget proposed at $3,878,932. Is there a motion to recommend that budget to the town board? So moved. And a second, thank you. Now, okay, we're open for discussion on that. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good, thank you. So you have your recommendation. Then our last bit of business is to schedule the date, the time, and the place for the 2017 special town meeting, and that is proposed at December 12th, 2017, 7 o'clock here at Heritage Hall. Is there a motion to make that? All those in favor? Thank you. Is there any other business that you'd like to present? Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. If we were to have some bad weather or not be able to meet on the 12th, they like to have an alternative date also set at December 14th. Is there a motion to make that official? Second? All those in favor? Very, very good. Thank you very much. Now, is there any other business? Anything you'd like to bring up? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor? Thank you very much.